Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to go over this how-to video on how to use the 1 to 7 projects planning aids. We're going to go over the data sheet, the town list, the mileage, and elevation gain charts. I will also put timestamps in the description below so you guys can jump ahead to those. I will also add in 2 links, one to the planning aids page where you can buy them and one for the Arizona Trail resource. All right, let's get started. So right here we have a 800 data sheet. And as you guys can see, we have, we have our rows and our columns. We got our titles and of course our header over here. So you're going to read this chart from left to right, just like you would a book. And we'll start on the left here and show you guys how to read this. So location, or I like to call POI, or point of interest, in this case, is Monument 103. That's our start. So these first two, the first thing I want you to tell you guys is these first two columns, elevation and mile, pertain to Monument 103. And then from distance to next to the end column of the pavement, that's talking about what's happening between these 2 points of interest. And then distance from trail to notes is once again specifically talking about Monument 103. All right, so let's read one across like we were if we were going to do this. So this is my location, my point of interest. I'm at Monument 103, and I'm at the start. Elevation is 5309. It's mile 0 because it's the start of the race, and it's going to take me 21.7 miles, the distance to next, to get to Parker Canyon Lake Trailhead. So that's what I got to cover. Next, in that 21.7 miles, I got an elevation gain, or I have to climb 1,912 feet. Elevation minus is how much I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose 1587 during that distance. I have an average grade of 0.3%. The maximum elevation, the highest point I'll see, is 6,014 feet, and the minimum elevation, 5227. All right, next we have this pavement section, and you can see it's divided up to beginning, middle / all, and end. Think about this as thirds. So taking this 21.7 and dividing it into thirds, or 33%, so 33, 33, and 33. And what this is telling you is that there's 0 pavement in the entire distance. But let's just go down here to the picnic area here. And you'll notice it says 4.4 miles. That means that in the last 33% of this 15.2 miles it is to get from La Silva to Rock and K, there's 4.2 miles of pavement. Now, when you see that, it just means that somewhere in that last third, 33%, there's 4.4 miles. In this case, I can tell you by experience that it is the last 4.4 miles, but it is not always in the exact end or the beginning, let's say on like one of these ones here. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, next we have distance from the trail. Monument 103 is on the trail, so it's 0. You can find it on map 1 of the ATA maps. It's also, there's a wilderness detour in there. And the resupply options, you see there's no services because you're in the middle of nowhere. Notice that these other resupply have all these letters. These letters Here's your key code for the letters that find the key for that down bottom. We'll show you that in a second. Section. And the last thing we have is the notes here. And the note on this one, it says start at 7 a.m. So that's how you read the data sheet, and like I said, to navigate through the course from one point of interest to the next. We'll notice that there's a lot of color on this map. So starting with the bright yellow, if you see a bright yellow highlighted note, that basically is telling you that it's something important, something you don't want to miss. So yeah, pay attention to those yellow ones. Next up, you notice that we have this red, and we have some blue, and then we have this green, and we also have the pink. Bike shop notes are in pink, so they're sometimes pretty much our lifelines out there. So red, we're going to go back up here to Highway 82 point of interest. So Highway 82 / Patagonia turnoff. You notice I've taken these guys here and split them up. And this is one point of interest. You're going to cross Highway 82, and here's the note for it: cross Highway 82. Well, cross the highway. It's in black because the highway's on the route. You're crossing it. Now Patagonia, the turnoff, this is the turnoff to get to Patagonia, which is off route. So that's why Patagonia is in red. You notice the distance from trail, 4.4 miles, is in red. The services which are off trail are in red. And then there's the note for those services that are off route in red. So if you see red, it's describing something as off route. All right. So next we have Kentucky Camp. Notice the entire line's in blue. It's got a T. That T stands for toilets. And the small W is for water. And there it is, toilets and water spigot. So if you see blue, got water, red, off route. All right. Next up, notice that these mileages for the Rock and K, Saguaro Corners Restaurant, and the Rikon Mountain Visitor Center turnoff, they're all highlighted with green around them. You'll also notice that the distances also match the distance to the next. So if you see a green box around the middle column of the pavement section, what that is telling you is that entire section between those 2 points of interest is all paved. So green, all paved. All right, here's that key that I mentioned you guys earlier with the codes for the resupply sections. We also have 2 notes here about the water sources and the public caches that you can use. And just so you guys are aware, the water sources that are listed is not all the water, because every year water sources change, they dry up, they come back. So there is more water or less water in the course, but just keep that in mind. And then lastly, there's the note here that tells you that this is based off of the 800 to 2022 version 4 10K GPX file. And I'm going to go over the 10K and what that means in regards to the planning aids themselves at the end of the video. So make sure you stick around for that because it's important. All right, so our last page has one of John Schilling's amazing side profiles here, and you can see the link right here. He has a bunch of mugs and other things you can buy, so if you want to support John and that, you can do so right there. I will go over this chart at the end of the video and explain it to you guys then, so stick around. Next up, we have the town list. The town list is very similar to the data sheet, but there are differences, and I'm going to explain to you guys those differences before I go into how the town list works, because it's going to help you guys understand the 2 of them and how they work and the differences. All right, let's go. So the difference between the town list and the data sheet is how the information is presented to you. Now the data sheet does have more information, but like I said, the biggest difference is in how that information is relayed to you, the user. All right, so we had, as we saw on our data sheet, a list of points of interest, and they were names. Let's just pretend the names are the letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, and so on. The data sheet gives you the information between A and B, then B to C, C to D, D to E, and so on. You get only the information between 2 points of interest, and that's it. Whereas on the other hand, the town list is going to give you accumulative distances. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So let's say that Jake's here is our A, and we have B, C, D, E, and F. You get the cumulative distance from A to B, B to C, B to D, E, and F. So these distances right here, your mileage numbers, 20 total miles between the 2. Then it jumps to 45, 42.5, 77.7, and so on. The elevation here, elevation gain and loss, is also cumulative. So these 3 columns here are giving you the cumulative distance and elevation gain and loss between your main point of interest in the blue box and these ones here. All right, so the next thing here is these 3, elevation is talking about this location, and the notes are also talking about this. So your main point of interest in this case is Jake's Corner Bar and Grill, or Bar and Grill Store. There's notes about it. There's your mile number. It's at 431.6. It's en route. This is why it's in black. And here's your little key for the supplies, the resupply options. All right. So what the beauty of the town list is, even though it has less information, is that let's say it's 3 a.m. You've been riding for 14 hours, and you're trying to do the math on how far it is between Jake's and, let's say, Flagstaff. Now, if you had a data sheet, you'd have to take this number, subtract it by this number, or you'd have to add up all the elevation between the 2, or all the distances to find it. Instead, we know that this number minus this number is 165.2. So that's the beauty of the town list. All right, so I wanted to point out to you guys as well how to read this in which direction. You're going to read from Jakes to Payson to Pine, Molman. So you're going up and down the road, the columns here. All right, so a lot of color on this page. So let's take a look at some colors. Yellow, as you can see here, important. If you see a yellow note, something to make sure you pay attention to and you want to, maybe heed the warning. All right, next up, a lot of red on here. Notice you got Mormon Lake Lodge here. It's at mile 541. It says off route 2.3 miles, and it also tells you it's downhill off trail. So if you see red, something's off route, whereas the black over here, as we pointed out earlier, is en route. So we've got an interesting note here on the Lake Mary Road. We've got black, we've got red, and we have the blue. So Lake Mary Road is en route. That's why these numbers, the elevation and the cumulative, is all in black, because it's a POI, a point of interest, that's en route. Now Pine Grove Campground is off route. I believe it's north on Lake Mary Road. So that's why it's in red, and it's got camping and there's water at the campground, so it's in blue. So red is off route and all these blues are water. Now you'll also note that some of these water cache notes have an asterisk. You want to go to the last page and make sure you read the note about the use of public water caches and things of the sort. So pay attention to that one. All right, the last color we see here is this green around the 4.2 between Tucsonia and the Grand Canyon Village. If you see a green box around a mile number, what that's telling you is that the entire distance between the 2 points of interest is paved. So there is one last color I wanted to tell you guys about. Notice here that this Flagstaff note has all services bike shops, and that's in pink. You also got one up here. All bike shop resupply notes are in pink, so you guys know where the bike shops are, because that's very important. So here's that key of the resupply options that I was telling you guys about. We have a couple asterisks here about the water sources. You want to make sure to check those out. Get a list of what towns the bike shops are in. We have this another amazing side profile by John Schelling, and there's a note about the pavement, the full pavement. I will go over this chart at the end of the video and explain it to you guys then, so stick around. And the last thing is here is that we, as you can see, we have the GPX file that's based off of, in this case it's the 10K version of last year's thing. And stick around, because I'm going to talk more about what that 10K version means in regards to the data sheets. Now we're going to talk about mileage charts and elevation gain charts. Since the two of these charts work exactly the same, except for one is giving you cumulative mileage and one's giving you cumulative elevation gained, I'm not going to go through each one separately. I'll go over one of the charts since the information applies to both. All right, let's get to it. Right here, we're looking at a mileage chart. As I mentioned before, the mileage chart and the elevation gain chart look exactly the same, except for the information that you're getting. So in this case, we're getting mileage. It's a simple XY kind of graph. It's the same that you'd see in any kind of old school map book. So you start on the left side. You choose where you choose where you're at. So let's say that I'm at Summer Haven, and I want to go to, let's just say I want to go all the way to Queen Valley. So what we do is we go to Summer Haven, then we look across until we find Queen Valley, and there's Queen Valley. So it is 126.6 miles. It's simple as that. Find where you're at, determine where you are going to or where you want to go, look down, and match the two up. It's simple as that. You've got the same colors. Red is off route, black is en route, the blue is water, bike shops are in pink. It is based off that same 10K file. Let's talk 10K files and how they affect the planning aids. So to achieve a 10K GPX file to be used on your Garmin or your cycling computer or your phone, whatever you're using on, what happens is the file is compressed, and it's compressed in the sense that waypoints are eliminated from the track so that this file size can be smaller and it can then be uploaded at one time. When that happens, you lose accuracy, and that accuracy is going to result, that loss of accuracy is going to result in things like altitude, well, the elevation gained and loss being either most likely less than it's going to be, and your distance is going to be off. Now, if you were to look at the non-K 10K version of the Arizona Trail, it would be more than 801.9, but the 10K comes out at the 801.9. So what that means is that, well, that's the first thing. The second thing that you have to think about and keep in mind when you're using the planning aids is that whether or not you're using a Garmin versus, let's say, a Wahoo versus your phone, each one of those is going to record what you actually physically ride each day on the trail at a different level of quality, and that result is not going to match these numbers exactly. So if you're buying any of the planning aids and expecting the numbers to be exactly perfect and for them to match what you actually physically ride from day to day, it's not going to happen. It's just the tolerances within the programs and with the actual products, they just don't match up. So keep that in mind when you're actually out there. None of these numbers are off so drastically that you're going to be in for surprise because it's off that bad. But just keep in mind that it's not a perfect system. It never will be. And just keep that in the back of your head when you're looking at the numbers. And for whatever reason, if you ride 21.7, then it is what it is. We have to work with it, and we do what we can. All right, so the last thing that we have for you guys as part of the planning aid here, this data sheet, is this target finish mileage. And what this chart is doing is it's letting you know what day and when and how fast you're going to have to go to finish on a certain day. So, and this year, if you want to finish in one day, obviously it would be very hard, but let's say you wanted to finish the 800 in 7 days. You have to finish on the 26th of October at 7 a.m. or before, which is a Thursday. You have to average 114.6 miles per day. So the reason why this is here is that when you start, let's say at 7 a.m. and you ride till midnight, and then you wake up at, let's say, 4 in the morning. You've now woken up on your second day of racing, but the race clock for you doesn't change until 7 a.m. So you're really on day one. And when you're 4 or 5 days in and you're trying to do that math in your head, it can get confusing. So this chart basically will help you, keep that straight. So if you want to finish on a certain day, you look at it and go, okay, I want to finish on a Sunday before 7 a.m. and that's the date. I have to do 80.2 miles per day. So, yep, that's there for you guys. All right, let's move on. Hopefully this video gave you guys a really good understanding on how the different planning aids work. If you still have questions, you can leave a comment below, or you can reach out to us at the oneof7project.com website and use our contact page there. I will also, in the notes section below in the description, leave you guys 2 links, one to the planning aids page so you guys can purchase these, and also one to our resource page that covers everything Arizona Trail. All right, best of luck to everyone out there who's racing this year or just touring. Be safe and have fun.